Right. Yeah. So my question while watching it and trying to understand what was happening, just with them, just spotlighting them, like who do they answer to? Because it doesn't seem like they answer to the planet itself. They were there to protect it. So I was curious about like any hierarchy within that.
So there's a very well established hierarchy within the Nova Corps,
right?
But they're just from Xandar.
Okay, so that's basically it then.
So
okay,
they're Xandarian. That's where they are from, and so apparently Xandar is like the superpower of the galaxy, and they just sort of are.
It's like the Republic, no.
A little bit, or something.
Yeah, something.
I don't know, like,
right.
or maybe it's agreed upon in some big galactic whatever that they're in charge of keeping law and order. I don't know
either.
It's definitely,
but it's
not
cool
gone
because
into.
it's interesting that they hold such a power within the galaxy.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting was that so in the comics, obviously, the Nova Corps members of the Nova Corps are a lot more super,
right?
To for lack of a better term,
and they seem very plain on the Xandarian planet, just very run of the day. Well, like a cop, just like a normal beat.
They're just cops, and they have technology, and that's
that's about it. Yeah.
And their ability to like create the net with all the different
the different piloted ships.
That was kind of cool. What I kind of wonder is going forward now that they have the Power Stone.
Ooh.
Now that the Nova Corps are in possession of the Power Stone, is that going to become the source of like the Nova Force?
Right.
Is what we know of in the comic books, and usually that would empower a Centurion with the ability to fly and create force fields and use a variety of gravimetric effects.
Right. So you're trying to get at them possibly harnessing the stone then in some manner.
Yeah, that would be
that would be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, in this movie, more than a lot of what you have seen up to this point, like really shows a bunch of the depth of Marvel's cosmic characters.
Yes.
And there's references to all kinds of things. And again, Ronan the Accuser is a guy who's been around in the comics for a long time and has had a lot of different stories, based around him.
Right.
And at times he's been more of a villain, and at times he's been more of just like a guy in the Kree Empire who's just being a Kree and doing the best he can.
Right.
And obviously Gamora, and a lot of these characters just have, like we said before, like crazy intricate backstories in the comics, and so this is just one more example of how Marvel has done a great job of paring it down to the basics and staying true to the essence of a character, while doing whatever it is they need with the story in the movie to move the larger narrative of the MCU forward.
Just keep it going. That's awesome.
And so the other one thing that I didn't really love in this film, that kind of bugs me also about the second movie, I don't see the basis for the relationship between Gamora and Peter Quill.
Yeah, that seemed a little bit it was definitely too pushed. First of all, it did seem unnecessary, because there's nothing in the comics with that, is there?
Oh no,
right. So I know they probably,
not that I'm aware of, because honestly I haven't read a ton of the more recent Guardians of the Galaxy comics, so I can't speak to that specifically.
Okay,
but in the movie,
that's something we could probably look at eventually sometime.
If anybody wants to actually us on that, then that'll be fine.
True dat, yeah.
But
that'd be cool.
but in the movie, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any better reason for any sort of relationship there other than hey, we're both attractive people. Why would it doesn't make any sense to me that Peter Quill, especially, like, as soon as he lands in that prison, would, like, immediately stick his neck out for the person who is largely responsible for him being there in the first place.
Exactly. Like, he's a good hero, like, as it is, but they are a band of rogues.
But see, he's
as
not.
It is.
But he's not supposed to be like, he's not portrayed as a really heroic kind of person.
Especially when it first comes off, he's literally stealing this orb that's an ancient relic, even though obviously nobody's watching it. Like,
doesn't make a ton of sense. Yeah. What else? Did anything else sort of stick out to you about the movie? Maybe we can kind of go into like some thematic things and things we can kind of like dig into and think about a little more deeply. You know, one thing like I know that is supposed to be a theme of this movie is family. You know, the family that you are sort of stuck with, and the family that you choose, and that is extended out, you know, and becomes a lot more explicit, obviously, in the second movie.
Right.
But the way that these characters...
I understand what you're saying, though, too. Like, the way they're portraying it from the very beginning of the film to the end of the film. So, Peter Quill's family, him being taken away from his family, even, but, like, becoming part of the Ravagers. Like, that's a sense of his other family, even though he doesn't really have the best of ties with them at this ongoing moment until the very end of the movie. Even to the Nova Corps officer that helps and works with Quill when he gets the message, like his sense of family. And I think it's like a completely different race on the Xandarian planet that he's with. So it's like there's a lot of intermingling. It doesn't matter where you come from, no matter what. Like your family is who you choose. And
yeah.
And that is kind of interesting because that, I can't remember who it was that was saying this, and it might have been on More Than One Lesson. It might have been on some other podcast. It might have been a preacher or something that I was listening to. But we're running out of themes to really hang our narratives on because there is so much disagreement about what our values should be
within culture,
within Western culture. Yeah. I think it probably was the Phil Vischer podcast. Now that I think about it,
okay.
And they were saying that, like, you know, family is good, and like, you know, just a couple of these really big things that like everyone can like unequivocally agree upon. Like, like you should have a sense of family. That's great. Yeah. But, you know, when it comes to actually saying, like, this is right or this is wrong and that kind of stuff, like, it's hard to get that kind of those kind of themes into your narrative without it being really edgy or you know, controversial.
Or profound,
Or preachy.
Ooh, yeah, no. That's also a good point, yeah. Because you don't want to... Because... They have enough trouble, I think, for some of the younger people who are involved within the cinematic universe to get them involved with it because of when everything was kind of written. All of the basis of this is quite a few years back. For them to get people engaged and interested within this new cinematic universe, this new build-up within the story, like, they have to be choosy. They have to be careful about what they're adding, what they aren't adding. It's because, like you said, it could get way too controversial with things.
And obviously, you know, it's not as though they're just making movies because, you know, it might be kind of a cool thing to do. Like, they want to make a lot of money.
They want to make money off this,
and they've been very, very successful at making a lot of money out of these movies. So in terms of how this movie actually hooks up with the rest of the MCU, what we do have here that's really crucial is that we get the origin of the Infinity Stones, and
what role they are going to take within all of this.
Yeah, see, now I can't remember. Does it actually talk? It doesn't talk about how Thanos is really looking for them.
It doesn't specify.
Except that Ronan says that he's trying to get the orb for Thanos.
Right. So the only, I guess, allusion we have to that is that part of it where he is looking for them, but it doesn't show how keen he is on finding them. It definitely doesn't seem like that. Like, it doesn't really seem like Thanos is in any rush with getting the Infinity Gauntlet assembled or anything like that, and that was kind of interesting as well.
I'm really interested to see in Infinity War how this ends up coming together, because I think that it actually sort of, in a really interesting way, mirrors the way that Marvel has been really, really patient in allowing this narrative to unfold in an unhurried way.
Yeah. I have to agree
that we
with that.
didn't even see Thanos or we didn't even get any hint of all of this stuff until the Avengers. Well, except for that they did have, there is an Infinity Gauntlet in the weapons chamber on Asgard,
right,
in Thor.
But you really got to look for that one, and
you have to know that that's there.
Oh yeah.
And as I mentioned in another episode, Thanos was actually a really late addition to the Avengers movie.
Interesting.
That came very late in production,
right.
And Joss Whedon was like, "Hey, can I
try and slip this in?
Can I slip Thanos
Yeah.
in?" And they're like, he didn't think he was going to get it.
Really? Oh,
And
I didn't even know that either. That's awesome.
Yeah, he didn't think he was
Wow.
going to get it. That
Okay.
was like his
And-
first thing. He went, and I forget what his backup thing was that he thought would be more realistic to get. It was like, I'm going to open big. I'm going to ask for Thanos, and then after they say no to that, then maybe we'll go down to Kang the Conqueror or something like that.
And then you get Thanos.
But we got Thanos, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
And now that Fox's cinematic IP has been acquired by Marvel, now we actually could get Kang the Conqueror involved in the Avengers stuff, which would be dope.
Yes.
Because Kang is actually a more prominent Avengers villain than Thanos.
Right.
Like, Thanos is a big MCU villain.
Oh, yeah.
For everything.
Yep.
But when you want to talk about like one of the major villains that have been a recurring deal for the Avengers, on the top of that list has got to be Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
what's really interesting about Kang, for anyone who doesn't
know who that is,
like, he's a super, super interesting villain, because his whole deal is like, he's a time traveler. He's like the master time traveler. And there's kind of like no hope of really stopping him, because he's always there in time somewhere, like some version of him. Like, if you want to actually understand like the story of Kang the Conqueror, then you need to like make that a weekend of research, because it's just a continuity black hole. Like, you can't even plumb the depths of it in like 6 hours of research. It's crazy.
But back to the origins, though, of the stones, the Infinity Stones themselves. So we get this first picture from the Collector, is who we get it from. And that's kind of an interesting thing within itself, because I don't know how popular, I should say, he is in the comics themselves, or how reoccurring he is for him to be just like pop up in this.
He's around in like cosmic stories, but he's definitely not a central figure, even in like the cosmic Marvel.
Yeah, milieu. So for him to be like in Guardians is interesting in itself, because it almost seems like he is more after the Infinity Stone than Thanos is.
Yeah, because you get that at the end of the Dark World, where he says 1 down, 5 to go.
Yeah, and it's like, what is the point of this? Why why did they do it this way? And what were the plans of the Collector? I would like to know, because he puts things on display, right? And this is the Power Stone.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is.
He's I'm sure he's old enough. I don't know what his lineage is or anything like that.
Well, he's one of what's called the Elders of the Universe.
Okay,
and so he is actually of the same race as the Grandmaster from Ragnarok.
See?
So there could be connections there that
we
get
might not
teased
know
out later.
We'll see. But for him to give that in-depth and the visual, because they added that visual for us to see, like the the not elders, but the individuals who split the stones and cast them away to the different corners of the earth.
Yeah.
Like for him to show us that this grand collector,